My doppelganger was nothing like me. But the real twist, human punching bags are better. It started subtly. A flicker in my peripheral vision. A man who looked familiar, dismissed it the first few times. Seattle's a big city, right? Bound to be someone who vaguely resembles you. Then it became impossible to ignore. He was everywhere, across the street waiting for the bus, walking ahead of me on my way to work, even sitting at a table in my favorite coffee shop, Sarah's Place. Every time, a jolt of wrongness, a distorted reflection staring back. It wasn't just a vague resemblance anymore. It was me. Same height, same build, same goddamn receding hairline I was desperately trying to ignore. The clothes were different though. Darker, sharper. He had a confidence I'd never possessed, a predatory air that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. My anxiety, always a low hum, ratcheted up to a deafening screech. Sleep became a battlefield of racing thoughts and hypervigilance. I started seeing Dr. Sharma, my therapist, hoping she could talk me down from the ledge of a full-blown breakdown. "It's likely a manifestation of your anxieties, Elias," she'd said, her voice calm and measured. "Your fear of losing control, perhaps projected onto an external figure. Easier said than done when that figure was my own goddamn face." The first direct encounter was outside my apartment. He was leaning against the wall, smoking, a practiced nonchalance in his stance. "You Elias?" he asked, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. "Yeah, and you are." He smirked, a flash of teeth that didn't reach his eyes. "Marcus." That was it. No explanation, no apology for the unsettling duplication. Just Marcus, like it was the most natural thing in the world. He flicked his cigarette butt onto the sidewalk and ground it out with his heel. "Just wanted to introduce myself," he said, his eyes raking over me with something that felt like contempt. "Don't get in my way." He walked away, disappearing into the dimly lit street. I stood there, frozen, the encounter replaying in my mind, each detail amplified by my own paranoia. Then the news reports started. Assaults, brutal, unprovoked attacks in my neighborhood. The victims described their attacker as a man fitting our description. Tall, dark hair, a cold, dead-eyed stare. Detective Davies showed up at my apartment a few days later. He was a hard-faced man with weary eyes and a perpetual frown. "Mr. Thorne, we're investigating a series of assaults in this area. The description of the suspect matches you." I stammered, explaining about Marcus, about the doppelganger. Davies listened, his expression unchanging, his skepticism palpable. "We have witnesses, Mr. Thorne. They placed you at the scene of the first assault. I had an alibi for the first one. I was at a late-night coding session with my team. They confirmed it." Davies didn't seem convinced. "We'll need you to be available for further questioning, Mr. Thorne." Things spiraled from there. Blackouts. Waking up with bruises and cuts I couldn't explain. Blood on my clothes. Fragmented images flashing through my mind, a darkened alleyway, a struggle, the sickening thud of a fist connecting with bone. I told Sarah about it, my voice cracking with desperation. She was one of the few people who actually listened, who didn't dismiss me as a delusional nutjob. "Elias, this is insane," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "You need to get to the bottom of this, before something really bad happens." I started researching. Doppelgangers, identity theft, even fringe theories about genetic manipulation. The deeper I dug, the more unsettling it became. Dr. Sharma's sessions grew stranger. She'd subtly suggest that maybe I was suppressing violent tendencies, that Marcus was simply a manifestation of my repressed desires. Her tone was increasingly clinical, detached. It felt less like therapy and more like observation. Mr. Abernathy, my reclusive neighbor, caught me in the hallway one evening. He was a strange old man, always muttering to himself. "They're watching you, Elias," he whispered, his eyes wide and bloodshot. "Be careful who you trust." I dismissed it as the ramblings of a senile old man, but his words stuck with me, a persistent seed of doubt. Then I found it, an abandoned building on the edge of the industrial district. I'd been driving around aimlessly, consumed by anxiety when I saw it. Something about the place pulled me in, an unshakable feeling that this was where everything was leading. The building was dilapidated, windows boarded up, the air thick with the stench of decay. I found a loose board and squeezed through, my heart pounding in my chest. Inside, the air was cold and damp. The silence was broken only by the occasional drip of water. I moved deeper into the building, my phone's flashlight cutting through the darkness. Then I found the elevator. It was old and rickety, but it worked. I pressed the button for the basement, a sense of dread washing over me. The elevator creaked and groaned as it descended. The air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. The doors opened with a shudder, revealing a long, sterile corridor bathed in the harsh fluorescent light. The air was thick with the smell of chemicals, and something else, something metallic and unsettling. I moved forward, my flashlight beam dancing across the walls. The corridor led to a large, open room, and that's when I saw them. Rows and rows of stasis pods filled with liquid, and inside each pod Marcus, dozens of them identical, expressionless. I stumbled back, my mind reeling, genetic engineering, cloning, it was all real. Then I saw Dr. Sharma. She was standing at the far end of the room, watching me, a cold, clinical smile on her face. "Welcome, Elias," she said, her voice devoid of warmth. "I was wondering when you'd find your way here." "What is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "What's going on?" "Marcus is a trauma sponge," she explained, her eyes gleaming with a disturbingly scientific interest. "He's designed to absorb physical and emotional pain from others. A revolutionary approach to mental health care, wouldn't you say? And you, Elias, are a failed prototype, or perhaps a control subject. We're still gathering data." The pieces clicked into place. The blackouts, the injuries, the increasing paranoia. It all made sense. Then Marcus appeared. He stepped out of the shadows, his eyes filled with a cold, predatory rage. "He's becoming unstable," Dr. Sharma said, her gaze fixed on Marcus. "Your presence is triggering him." Marcus lunged at me, a guttural roar escaping his throat. I reacted instinctively, dodging his attack. The fight was brutal. Marcus was stronger, more aggressive. But I was fighting for my life, fueled by adrenaline and fear. He landed a blow to my face, sending me sprawling. I tasted blood, my vision blurring. As he moved in for the kill, I saw it. A small, almost imperceptible port on the back of his neck, a connection point. I didn't know what it was, but I had a feeling, a desperate, intuitive understanding. I scrambled to my feet and lunged at him, grabbing him by the head. I pressed my hand against the port, channeling all my anxiety, all my fear, all the trauma I'd experienced in the past few weeks into that single point. Marcus screamed, a high-pitched, agonizing sound. He convulsed, his body shaking violently. Then he collapsed, his eyes wide and unseeing. Dr. Sharma gasped, her face contorted with a mixture of horror and fascination. "Impossible," she whispered. I didn't wait to see what she would do. I fled the facility, my mind shattered, my reality irrevocably altered. I told Sarah everything. She listened, her face pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Elias, I don't know what to say," she said, her voice barely a whisper. This is beyond anything I can comprehend." "I know," I said, my voice flat. "I barely comprehend it myself." Detective Davies showed up at Sarah's coffee shop later that day. He had a warrant for my arrest. "We found evidence at the scene of the latest assault, Mr. Thorne," he said, his voice grim. "Your fingerprints were all over the weapon." I was cornered. The police were closing in. Then I saw them, standing across the street in the shadows. A group of identical individuals, all looking exactly like me, like Marcus, watching, waiting. Their faces were blank, devoid of emotion. But in their eyes I saw something that chilled me to the bone. A cold, calculating intelligence. A silent promise of something far more terrifying than I could ever imagine. The police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. I was trapped, surrounded. And as I looked at those identical faces in the shadows, I realized that I wasn't free. I was just a pawn, in a game I didn't understand, and I was about to lose.